Today's show is brought to you by StreamTech Drift Boats, the world's most versatile drift boat. Find them at www.streamtechboats.com. I kind of feel bad for these people, but at the same time I don't because they're stupid.
Don't see a circle around yourself, just start pissing everywhere.
Oh, I hate the Dutch.
Welcome to our country. So
she doesn't really look Canadian. She looks almost American.
Just insulted all of Canada.
Oh, every time I see something, you got If I'd known that before, I would have just interspaced every other sentence with something horrible.
Well,
I haven't felt my feet since I sat down in the chair.
Can you see your feet, though?
No. I'd rather do anything else on the planet than go tip a cow over.
How about Canada? Is there any stream access issues up in Canada?
nobody cares.
Not very much.
Kids, if you don't understand that joke, ask your parents.
Evan, Derek,
Yeah.
Oh, crap, here it comes.
your flies are open.
Thanks.
Grab hold of your flies. This is a podcast for nymphers, strippers, swingers, and dry fly guys. It's the show that brings you stories, instruction, and conservation from three guys who live it every day. This is The Open Fly.
Let's go.
All right, let's go. It's actually recording, so you just started the show already.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, Derek's sorting through a few thousand flies that I had here in my office and going. He's got ADD right now, and so
He's like a lab in a pool with 500 tennis balls.
only the balls are flies.
Welcome back, people, to the show.
Where did we go?
You have been missing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. What did they miss? Just stuff.
Things we do, we're not doing this. That's
Yeah.
good stuff.
I just went shadding, which that's not something I do on a break. That's a fishing trip that I take.
Oh.
Thought that was your morning constitutional.
I get enough of this coffee, and I'll be shadding on the next break.
What's the plural of that? I mean, what's the singular of that?
Shad.
You shad?
I shad. Well, shadding is a verb. So if you go fishing for shad, you're shadding.
I heard shadding is a stinky business.
Oh God, it smells so terrible.
Yeah.
I jumped in the shower yesterday after I got home and just smelled like it just reeked of shad slime.
Yeah.
Well, if you shad yourself, you should probably take a shower.
It's true. They're named appropriately.
Or jump in a river.
Yeah. So we removed probably over 200 pounds of invasive shad out of the Columbia River.
Nice.
That'll feed the Puget Sound crab population.
Well,
Isn't there a retirement center that Anderson, what the hell? Stuart Anderson is a spokesperson for Shad Living or something?
I have no idea.
Oh, that's Shag.
Shag.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound funny, but Kirk, your fly's open.
It actually is.
Hey, look at that. Can we get a camera?
That's not even false.
I have a camera. Yeah, I've been filming you, actually.
Hope it has a macro focus lens.
Yeah. So good thing Derek stares at Kirk's crotch the whole time. We would have missed that.
Hey, it's either a bunch of flies or Kirk's fly.
Yeah, for once we're not false advertising. His fly was, I think it's still open.
We're all about the open fly.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I was looking at a Dalai Lama, and I thought, oh, Kirk's fly is open.
Yeah. Cool. So when was the last time we did this? Over a month and a half ago? A month ago? I don't know. I didn't count.
Has
Who's
it been
counting?
I know the people have missed us.
No, absolutely. They've been pretty silent about our absence. But
When was the last time the universe just absolutely expanded at a rate that you could not calculate it? That's probably the last time we did a show.
currently,
Well, that was kind of deep. I didn't even.
That's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
So I miss you guys. It's been some time.
yeah. As advertised, we're taking periods of hiatus through the summer, so Derek can guide and our guests can guide, and we can travel and do other summer things.
I went on my annual pilgrimage to Yellowstone.
Oh, tell us about that. Let's talk about fishing. I don't think we do that a whole lot on the show.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
this is a trip that I do with a group of buddies, the Firehole Rangers. Every year, we generally go back and fish inside Yellowstone Park on the opening day, which is the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. However, we went a week later this year, which turned out to be a really good decision. Made me look smart.
Yeah, well, I know from previous years you seem to go get a whole bunch of terrible weather.
Yes, the weather you can't control and it can change within the hour, but we had almost average good fishing this year, whereas a week earlier it was piss poor. Rivers are all running real high. We had nothing to complain about.
And that was opening day?
It was a week later than...
Did you get any nibbles?
Got many nibs.
I like nibs.
Yep.
I was in Montana also on opening day for creeks, and the creek we were on was flooded.
Yay!
The fishing was okay the first day. The second day was mostly about the whitewater and getting stuck under bridges.
Nice.
Sweet. The water was up.
That was fun though.
Water was running real close to the bottom of the bridges.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And you just tried to go for it?
The first day we went through the first bridge, and we got stuck.
Oh yeah.
And then the second day, it had been raining all night, and we started up a little bit higher in the river, and then.
So how does one get unstuck from under a bridge?
And what exactly was stuck? A part of the boat, or like your nose?
Well,
it's not like you can really back up.
When you get down on the floor of the boat, and then say the back lean bar is actually higher than the bottom edge of the railroad trestle bridge, and the boat just kind of stops. You just stand on you squat down. Here, I'm going to do this. You squat down on the floor. And then push with your back up against the bottom of the bridge, and it lowers the boat, and then you just slide right on through.
Sounds like you just took a shad.
I shadded. Yeah, now I need a shower.
Yeah.
Anyways, but we drank a lot of whiskey, and we floated some nice whitewater.
That's awesome.
Nice.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I just went shadding. I've been fishing the local a little bit here and there, and hooked some steelhead and lost them.
I noticed your boat is up and ready.
Yeah, it's. I took it on a float last week. Me and our mutual friend John Hicks.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we landed a couple bull trout, hooked 2 steelhead that we lost, but
bull char.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
The Skycomish, up
nice.
the road here.
Up the road.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about that river a few times here.
Did you cross any railroad bridges?
No,
nice.
But no, you don't have to on a boat.
Well,
yeah, I think they were only ticketing people for crossing the railroad tracks on opening day.
That's got a lot of people pissed off.
Yeah, but it hasn't been happening since, so I think everybody's settled down.
Just a quick revenue gathering machine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Other than that, yeah, just my shad trip that I just got home from yesterday. It was like 40-mile-an-hour winds, but we still managed to catch 100-plus shad in a day and a half, which wasn't terrible.
Well,
and they were pretty big too, like 3+ pounds.
I saw a bunch of coolers. You posted a picture of a bunch of coolers full of shad.
Yeah, and for anybody who gets mad about us harvesting so many fish, they're invasive. The WDFW wants us to get them out of there. Not that taking 100-plus shad out of the Columbia River that gets tens of millions of them is going to do anything. But
where do those shad come from?
East Coast. Well, they were brought over on a train like over 100 years ago. Somebody like put a bunch in a barrel or a couple barrels in a train car, brought them over, dumped them in the Sacramento River, and they spread from the Sacramento to the Columbia and a couple other ones.
Well, we gave them the rainbow trout. We got the shad. Seems like a good trade.
We also got brook char.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I don't know if anybody's ever touched a shad before. Besides being stinky and slimy, their bellies are like razor sharp, so my hands are all cut up from grabbing them. You'd think after like the first 50 you'd learn, but
seems like a highly desirable fish from all angles. I mean.
It really is.
So it's like when you have like a dog waste bag and you reach down, you pick it up. Sometimes it's a little bit.
There was somebody else that was there that was doing that. They had like a dog waste bag they put over their hand to grab them. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's smart. And then I grabbed another one with my bare hands.
Dog waste bag.
Yeah, and actually,
shad.
Yeah. And if anybody remembers from a show a couple months ago, we had a guest named Jason Shaw, the tournament angler guy, and he was on a cross-country road trip and met up with me, and I took him shadding. He caught his first shad.
Dear Diary, last week I drove across the country to go shad.
Yeah. Yep. Nice. So we went shadding on the first date.
Ooh, olive woolly buggers.
Well, technically it's a hail bop leech.
Yeah,
but
whatever.
It's about the same thing.
Yep. Derek is still sorting through my flies.
Why wouldn't I be? Mm-hmm. We've got a great show today, I think.
Yeah, who are we talking to? What are we doing? You set this one up. I'm just kind of here pushing buttons.
Yeah, I did all of the work for this show, basically.
You did.
So
it's true.
I'll take all the credit for this one. Today's show is we're going to go around the world. Actually, we're going to talk to the folks from Save Our Smith. And
which Smith is it? Because Smith is a very popular name.
Smith River, Montana. Pebble Mine is not the only mine and river system that's being threatened by commercial enterprises trying to get resources out of the headwaters of important places. And the Smith River is a place I floated. I love it. It's great. And there's a company that wants to put a open pit copper mine, I believe, near the headwaters. So we're going to talk with the folks from Save Our Smith who are fighting the fight against that. Uh-huh. And then we are talking to Bryant Dunn, who is a guide in both Idaho on Silver Creek, I believe it is.
You just blew up his fishery.
Sun Valley area. Yeah, I just blew up Silver Creek.
Way to go.
Nobody's ever heard of that place.
No.
And then also in the Himalayas.
Himalayas?
I'm sorry, did I say that wrong?
I don't know.
Himalaya.
The Himalayas gave us the blackberry bush. Sorry.
Yeah, they are an invasive species, and they're sharp also. They'll cut the hell out of your hand.
Conservation is always weaved into the show.
It's all
about invasive species. But we're going to be talking about fishing for golden mahir.
How about we ask him?
We will ask him.
I could use the Googler here on my tablet, but I'm lazy, and it's over there.
What tablet?
This little thing right here.
Oh.
Sit next to this awesome stack of stickers. We should tell people about that, huh?
Yeah, we have 3 minutes before we call our first guest, though, I think.
Yeah, but who's counting?
Yeah,
they are.
Me.
Yeah.
Dave from Strippin' Flyware, you can find him online, Instagram, Facebook, and all that, is a big supporter of the Pebble Mine cause. And after our last show about the Pebble Mine, not our last show we did, but the last show we did about the Pebble Mine thing, he wanted to send us some swag, so he sent Kirk, Derek, and I some pretty awesome T-shirts.
Heck yeah.
And a stack of stickers. And we'll tell you in a minute how you can get those. How about we tell them right now?
Yeah, why not? Because they're worth getting.
They are. So anybody who is a monthly donor, a subscriber, people that send us money so we can pay for our expenses, you know who you are. For our monthly drawing this week, we're going to do something a little different. We have another custom painted guide fly box from Allen Fly Fishing with a tarpon on it. And
isn't that a shad?
Sure. Yeah, because tarpon and shad are very closely related, and I guess you could say that that's a shad. They got the same mouth.
You got a pretty mouth, boy.
So what we're going to do is you can email us at theopenflypodcast@gmail.com if you're a monthly donor. Let us know. Pick a show, Kirk.
Show number 6.
Okay, show 6. Our guide segment on that show. Tell us who that was and what their main water is. Their main fishery. That work for you guys?
Go.
So email us at that email address. Let us know who that is. The 20th person to email in from our monthly donors will win that fly box. And everybody else that emails in that's a monthly donor that is not the 20th one will get the Pebble Mine stickers from Strippin' Flyware, and we'll send those out to you.
I have a question, though.
Yes.
What show is this we're recording today? Is this like 15?
16.
16?
Yeah, something like that.
16.
And if we're asking people to reference show 6, that was a long time ago. I mean,
how do they find out?
Yeah, because it's like
they can go to iTunes and find show 6, or they can go to theopenflypodcast.com and find show 6.
Oh,
there are ways to research this.
This isn't a live broadcast that comes and goes, and
they can go back.
I get it now.
Yeah, it took you 16 shows to figure that out.
But I'm there. Hey.
Yep. So if that makes sense, just email us. One of you guys will win this fly box. The other ones, you guys will just get some Pebble Mine stickers from Strippin' Flyware. And if you're concerned about, some of you donate more than others. So if those of you that donate $10 a month get like 5 entries, and so on and so forth. So if you donate $10 a month, you'll actually be emailer 5 through 9 or 5 through 10 instead of just number 5. That makes sense.
That's really complicated. Just send us something and we'll send you stuff.
Yeah, just send us an email and I'll worry about the details. How about that?
You can buy votes on the Open Fly.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. So there you go. That's our monthly drawing this week. Figured we'd do something a little different for this month since we're doing hiatus stuff. And I don't know, I didn't feel like drawing somebody's name because that's a lot of work.
It is.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah. So I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go to our first break here and call our guests. You can go to our website at theopenflypodcast.com and buy T-shirts and stickers and all other kinds of fun stuff and find the backlog of episodes. You can also find the episodes on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and any other podcasting service that exists. We're probably on it. So, all right. First break.
Sweet.
Break. All right. Time to go shadding.
Derek, and on behalf of Stream Tech Boats, I want to talk to you about 3 factors that I consider really important when you're choosing a drift boat, and that's safety, fun, and performance. These are the safest drift boats around to float out of. They're fun to row, and from a performance standpoint, if you're a professional on the water, all 3 of these factors are important. So let's take a second to hear from the man who designed the boat himself.
I tried pretty much everything, that just none of them were really doing what I wanted. So we set out to design a boat. I'd call it the one boat that would maneuver like the hard boats, that would go in the really rough places, that would float high, that would have all the amenities that come on a hard boat with anchor systems and good leaning. A very nice flat floor that you can inflate hard, that you can stand on. No bolts, no nuts, no pins, no clips, nothing to put it together. For the reasons that it's so good for fishing, it got this rocker, and so it pivots quickly, and it slides out on the foam pile when you come off big drops. That rocker just climbs right out on the foam pile. A total game changer.
So there you have it. My recommendation, Link's words. Look for us at www.streamtechboats.com. Call Link directly. He'll answer that phone, and he'll get you on your way towards the best drift boat on the market.
Now back to the open fly.
All right. Today's conservation segment is brought to you by Wetlander, the slick boat bottom coating. Hey, I think it's the first time I've said it right.
That was good.
Yeah. Hey. All right. I actually got to take my boat out for the first time with that slick boat bottom coating. When I was talking about, I floated the Sky Comish last week with John Hicks. I intentionally took it down a couple of the side channel things that are a lot shallower, it's a couple inches deep, and you kind of skate down some rocks. When I used to go down those, I used to have to get out of my boat and push it through. Literally, this thing just like got on those, like a couple inches of water, just like sledded right down there.
Nice, like being on rollers.
Drops. Yeah, it kind of was actually. We just slid right down, and both and I, John, were like, "Wow, that worked a lot better than I even thought." So,
how did the bottom look at the end of the day?
I actually put it up on the trail. You can see. I mean, you can see where the rocks were, but they're just like they kind of wipe off, kind of like it's dirt, you know.
Nice.
So
it didn't actually scratch the.
No,
surface.
one of them I slammed pretty hard too, and looked at it, and my boat is still fully coated.
Nice.
So works as advertised.
That's good.
Yeah, that's the Wetlander.
That would be an excellent testimonial.
Yeah,
for the product.
Or advertisement.
It would be if they were a sponsor and we were trying to promote their product. That would be a great testimonial.
Yeah.
Hey, wait, we are.
Strange days.
How about that?
Yeah. So I'm extremely happy with it so far. The coating I had on it before was the most popular one people use in this area, and I would like to see people switch over because it is the Wetlander is substantially superior. So if you got a drift boat or a sled or really any kind of boat, any kind of hard boat, this stuff will up your game and stay on there. So, all right.
Sounds good.
It is good.
Yeah.
All right. Should we talk to Durf now?
Let's talk to Durf.
Durf from the Save the Smith.
Save Our Smith.
Save Our Smith. Is it a foundation?
It's a .org, I believe.
It's a .org. Is that like an actual nonprofit now?
I don't know.
You register as a .org?
Let's ask him.
All right.
Really?
Yeah. All right. We're on hold.
We've been put on hold.
Wow.
Oh.
They don't even have the courtesy to give us music.
I know.
Some places do. Well, we'll see.
We'll file a complaint.
Maybe donations will help fund a music hold.
Something soothing right now. Some music.
Strangers in the night. All right. Well, we have Durf and Jim on the phone. Gentlemen, tell us a little bit about what Save Our Smith is about and why you've become involved in the cause and what our listeners should know about what's happening there in Montana on the Smith River.
Happy to. This is Jim Jensen. A small startup penny-traded stock mining company from Vancouver, British Columbia, is proposing to build a large underground copper mine on the main tributary to the Smith River in Montana, which is arguably the crown jewel of fly fishing waters in Montana. And the ore that they are going to be digging for is sulfide ore, as it's known, which causes acid mine drainage. And the acid mobilizes metals and into groundwater and surface water and represents a very serious threat to the Smith River and its fishery.
So
we are trying to educate people about exactly what the project is and what each person can do to help prevent it from being built.
Awesome. So in contrast to some of the larger issues that people may know more about, such as the Pebble Mine campaign, why is there such a concern over such a small organization coming in and doing this? What's the real threat? Is there any chance of this getting done?
What almost always happens is a small company finds an ore body, a reserve, and publicizes its ownership and does a little work and promotes the project to large mining companies that come in and create joint ventures normally or buy out the small guys and move forward with the project. And we think that's exactly what will happen here. You have a company that stock yesterday closed at 16 cents a share, is undercapitalized. We think that's a serious problem when you have these, it's sort of a damned if you do or damned if you don't situation. The undercapitalized companies can't afford to do things right, even when it's possible to do it right. The big companies use their political influence and economic power to evade and avoid requirements to do it right. So we think that there are just some places where the competing values, society's values of clean water, fish, tourism, and agriculture outweigh the benefits over for the short-term gain represented by mine.
Montana's got a pretty storied past of having raped the land and done an awful lot of environmental damage. It's not that far in the past that this was the case, so doesn't it become one of just a big PR campaign to remind people what can happen?
Irv, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the storied past goes as far back as what we're still dealing with the Berkeley Pit, and then over with Zortman-Landusky, another famous crime against the environment in Montana that we're going to have to deal with for a very long time in terms of tree and water. It's always a story that needs to be told when we're dealing with these new projects. And, you know, one of the things that their companies one of their lines that's trying to spit out is that this project's different and that they're going to implement modern mining practices. That's something that they always say. They're also saying that the rock that the ore body is associated with is high in alkaline, which they argue is going to neutralize the acid mine drainage. That's the same thing that they said back when they proposed the Zortman-Landusky mine, which is now a Superfund site.
It is the companies and the industry's line to always overstate the benefits and understate the costs of a project. That's the nature of things, and our job is to make sure that Montanans know what the costs and risks associated with a project are, along with the potential benefits. And you're absolutely right. It is not just the 100 and 120 year ago old mines in Montana, going back to the middle of the 1800s. What was touted as the most modern, safe method of gold mining, called cyanide heap leach mining, in the 1980s and 90s through the end of the last century here, ended up being maybe the most damaging method of gold mining we've ever seen. So modern mining is no better than historic mining when it comes to the impacts.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess the one thing that Montana has in its favor is that it's got an awful lot of people that come to visit and fish and enjoy the resources that live outside the state's boundaries. So there's a lot of people that are passionate about the state of Montana, even if they don't live there. So the voice opposing this mine could potentially be rather large.
And we know it is. I mean, we've seen support from not only all over Montana, because this is a very cherished river for Montana, but all over the country and all over the world. I mean, this is a very prized and beautiful section of water for Montana. Something that's guarded and coveted forever.
For people that don't know where the system is, this is a system that's, I believe it eventually drains into the Missouri to the north, and it originates near the town of White Sulphur Springs, which is north of Helena. And the launch point for this place for people that are going to float is a place called Camp Baker, which, when the season is on, it's a small village of people excited about getting on the river and floating this system. I had the privilege of doing it a couple of years ago, and just amazed by the place, but also kind of amazed by it's wilderness, but at the same time, there's obviously impacts of man already. We were floating one day, and somebody in a helicopter flew over us and was glassing us with a pair of binoculars. People that do live there and have property around there are very possessive about where they are. Have the homeowners and the local community there have they been up in arms about this, or are they welcoming the potential of the jobs and the punch to the economy that typically mining companies promise and try to deliver on?
Well, many landowners are concerned, certainly downstream landowners, and those ranchers who irrigate from the river have a very serious reason for concern because, as we learned in the Summitville mine situation in Colorado, the ultimate impacts of that disaster accrued to irrigated agriculture downstream, where their irrigation systems, pipes, and so forth were destroyed, frankly, by the acid in the water. The seasonal homeowners on the Smith River, of which there are quite a few, many of them have joined in our effort to oppose this mine, and I think many more will as the word gets out and the impact become clear. Of course, the company has done what these companies always do, and that is hired a couple of local folks that are well-liked, one former county commissioner and the mining geologist who originally was from there, well-liked in the community, and so it becomes very difficult for people who have concerns in the community to speak out without retribution from sort of the old boys club, if you will. That's very typical in these mining disputes. It happened on the Blackfoot River in Montana, but when we got to a secret ballot about whether or not that method of mining should be banned that was used or proposed up at the headwaters of Blackfoot, the people in the community voted to ban it. So I think that we will have very genuine support for stopping this mine from many people in the community, but I think few of them will be able to speak out.
And, to follow up on that a little bit more, indeed, acid mine drainage is going to be a very serious problem posed by this mine. But there's also the concern over the water quantity and how much impact this particular mine is going to have on the amount of water that flows into the river. This mine's proposed at the banks of Sheep Creek, which is that most important tributary. And there's a reason that Camp Baker and the put-in for all the people who are floating down the magnificent, river, that put-in is right below Sheep Creek, and that's because it dumps a large volume of water in at that point. With mining projects, there's a lot of water treatment and a lot of water displacement that goes on, and that can very seriously impact the water quantity that's going to the river, and that can impact the fishery and impact irrigators who have been there for a century or more. There already are issues in this drainage with the Smith River Basin with the quantity of water that's going down the river. There's been years when it's close to running dry or running dry at Eden Bridge.
You mentioned that you have a legal background, so I know you won't answer this question and get yourself in trouble. But does it seem like with the mining issues, whether it's in Alaska or Montana or wherever it's at, does it seem like there's a kind of a purposeful intent for the mining companies to put or propose these places at the headwaters of rivers that a lot of people hold sacred, especially on the recreation side? Do you think is that a tool that's being used by these companies to kind of build publicity for their cause? The old saying of any even bad PR is good PR?
I think the larger issue is there's some places that should be off limits to mining. I guess I can't really speak to the industry's intent and why they would choose to put it at the headwaters of the Smith River. That to me is a very baffling and obscene proposal, and obviously they're going to have a lot of opposition to that.
Well, the mining industry, I think, is always says, and I think that there's no question there's truth in it, that they mine where the ore is.
It's a good strategy.
That is Montana's experience.
Good strategy.
Mining camp here, and many of the headwater streams, which is where gold especially is often found, were destroyed and continue to be barren because of hydraulic mining that was used, where entire drainages were simply fire hosed, if you will, with massive hydraulic pumps to, and just where everything was washed down. An important point for us is that we want to learn from that history. And the fact is that places like the Smith River are extremely rare because they didn't get this kind of attention in the early days. And because they are so rare, they are much, much, much more valuable for non-industrial, non-consumptive uses that are sustainable over time and provide good jobs and a wonderful experience for people who are able to use the river.
So you've already started to see some of the impacts of both the pros and the cons of this operation in the communities around the Smith, right? White Sulphur Springs and Helena. Is it become a divisive issue there in town? Is it to the point where people are, it's neighbor against neighbor?
It's a little early to be able to say that it's neighbor against neighbor. Clearly, the mine company and its allies have worked hard in the community to promise economic benefits that we believe simply will never, ever accrue to the people who live there. Underground mining is skilled work, and virtually none of the employees and workers of, if this mine is built, are going to come from White Sulphur Springs. Maybe a few maintenance personnel or others who, office workers on the surface. But what happens in communities is called the Gillette effect, which is what happened in Gillette, Wyoming with coal mining, and that is the word was out that there were jobs, and people who had the ability to come looking for work, but not the ability to leave if they didn't find it, came and radically changed the community. And crime, poverty, social services, all those impacts, huge impacts on schools, and taxes of the existing residents were dramatically affected, and that will happen in White Sulphur Springs. People will come from elsewhere for the jobs. Not enough. There won't be enough jobs for the number of people who will come seeking them, and you'll have these harmful impacts that occur in the community, both social and economic impacts, and of course those spill over into environmental impacts. With additional poaching and the problems, other impacts on wildlife and the wildlife resources. And it is our job to make sure that people in the community are made aware of this. And we will be working over the next year or two to educate folks to counter the extraordinarily one-sided arguments and sort of cheerleading that is being done by the company.
One of the things that I've learned in looking into this issue and is that there's been kind of a different tack taken by some of the proponents of this proposed mine, and that's actually going after an outfitter that operates on this system. And we're going to speak with somebody who does that here in just a moment. What can you tell us about that approach? Is that something you've seen before, or how has that affected this community?
Well, the mining industry flexes its muscles, and it always has, and certainly tries whatever methods are necessary to silence its critics. And the Montana Mining Association's attack on this outfitter from Bozeman was classic in Montana in our experience here. The old habits die very, very slowly, and frankly, we think it was a blunder on the part of the Mining Association to continue this sort of historic behavior. We aren't going away, and we are not powerless, and we are not threatened at all by this sort of behavior. And I think that was shown by the extraordinarily vocal rallying that came to the defense of the outfitter, and the very harsh criticism of the Mining Association, and I think even some of the mining industry's political allies are quite concerned that sort of behavior continued to be engaged in. But
in a nutshell, what happened for those that aren't aware?
Well, there was an article published in Field and Stream that profiled the mine proposal and had a couple of different quotes from the Trout Unlimited and a former guide for an outfitter called Yellow Dog. And it was not a very hard-hitting piece. There was just some very reasonable questions that were raised about some possible impacts associated with the project. And then the Montana Mining Association got a hold of this and saw this and ended up publishing something in their newsletter that goes out to all of their members all across Montana that called for a boycott of anybody who would use Yellow Dog's outfitting services, just over simple questions over whether or not this is a good idea. I mean, it was a very striking and concerning tactic.
So we're gonna get them on the line next, aren't we?
Yeah, let's get Mike on the phone and get his side of the story here. So,
what is the political climate surrounding this proposed mine? Is there a lot of opposition? Is there a lot of support?
Well, the general political climate about Montanans, I think, dramatically oppose it. The state agency that is in charge of regulating mining received a record number of comments on this project when it was being reviewed, and nearly all of those comments were against the project. We haven't had elected politicians, sort of the political class, say much of anything about it, at least not yet, though in the fall election campaign, they unavoidably will have to address it, especially those running for state-level office in the legislature and so forth, because people will demand it.
Hopefully you'll get honest answers.
Yeah, that's the norm.
You support this mine at your peril as an elected official in the state, is my view.
All right, well, I think we're going to have to wrap up this segment and then get a Yellow Dog on the line. Is that our plan here?
I don't know that Mike works for Yellow Dog. I know that they were the...
Oh, he has a separate company.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, right. We're talking to Mike, though. All right, guys. Durf and Jim, we're going to let you guys go and get Mike on the line.
Yeah, thank you. All this has been a great...
He's the big dog on the Smith.
Cool. So before you go, let our listeners know where they can find out more, where they can donate if they please, or...
Yeah, we have a website up that has a lot more information, and that's www.saveoursmith.com. You can get on there, and there's a description of the Smith River as well as a petition tool that allows you to contact our governor and the director of the Department of Environmental Quality here, who's the lead permitting agency responsible for this project. And we also got an active Facebook page that you can get onto called Save Our Smith, just Facebook Save Our Smith, and that is updated regularly with ways you can get involved and pictures of the Smith and stories from around the country on this proposal.
Very cool. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate it. We're going to let you go then.
Thank you.
Yep, take care.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Well, that sounds like a stupid idea.
Yeah. We're definitely morphing into the anti-mining, anti-hatchery show. That's our platform.
Well, the mining thing, I mean, I understand that we have to get our resources.
Just don't take it from my river.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a solution. But, it's funny about this is, the Methow, which is one of my favorite rivers, just nostalgia reasons and all that I go there once a year. They're proposing basically the same type of mine in the headwaters of that. On the Chewuk. I don't know why I couldn't say that. I've been up there my entire life, the Chewuk. So, I mean, it's not just the Smith. I mean, there's a lot of other very popular, very storied, recreational rivers. I think they're going to have a really hard time on the Methow because of the endangered species situation there with the steelhead and the king salmon and the coho and all that. I don't see that one going very far.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see this as being, because that did strike my mind that when we have these conversations about conservation on the show, and it's often anti-mine, or it could be perceived as anti-mine or anti-dam or anti-gold panning or whatever it is.
We think it should be done responsibly.
Responsibly done, and then this is a playbook that's getting used over and over and over again, and it's not like it's a different. It's not like it's a different problem. It's the same thing happening over and over again. So we're just bringing awareness to this, I think, and trying to flip the playbook around. And for me personally, it's how do we move this conversation away from let's propose a mine at the headwaters of this river, which all it does is serve to agitate. It seems to agitate people and cause this whole machine to go into motion. I'd rather not start that machine in motion at all, and just start looking for places that you can mine responsibly that don't have impacts on headwaters of places that we like to fish and float and recreate on. So that's it for me.
Yeah, you would think that if that was an easy proposition, they would do that, and yet it continues to, rear its ugly head.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, here's Mike calling me, so let's call out to him so that he knows that we're on time here.
Okay.
So. All right, we have Mike Geary on the phone with us today. Mike, thanks for joining us. Mike is an outfitter. He is with Lewis and Clark Expeditions, based out of Helena, Montana. So, Mike, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So we've just spoken with Jim and Durf with MEIC and the campaign for Save Our Smith. Tell us a little bit more about your operation and how you're involved with this advocacy position for the Smith River.
Well, we're an outfitter on the Smith River, and I'm also kind of speaking on behalf of the other outfitters. So we do 73 commercial trips collectively down the Smith River, and our concern with the mine is that, potentially what can happen to the Smith in an adverse manner. So if the mine produces some kind of toxic waste or fouls up the water table, then we're left with cleaning that up.
Mm-hmm. How long has Lewis and Clark Expeditions been in operation on the area or on the river in the area?
I'd like to field that question, Derek.
Okay, sorry.
209 years. And so my question to you, sir, is how much has the area changed since you first went through there on your journey to the Pacific Ocean?
Actually, not much. We still eat a lot of pemmican and have a lot of elk, and we have on our trips we average about 9 person a day.
Nice.
And have a life expectancy of about 209 years.
Perfect. Actually, there is a serious undertone to my line of questioning, and that is that the Smith River flows through what I imagine is still a fairly pristine area that hasn't been decimated by, population and progress and all that, correct?
Yes, my feeling on the Smith River is I believe that in some of these fishing career that at some point in time they at least have a desire to fish in Montana. And I think for Montanans that fish and float rivers, that the Smith River holds a special place in our hearts as a place that is on our bucket list.
Mm-hmm. Is there from your viewpoint in promoting this area? I know that this season I applied for a permit, and I know that 6,000 other people did. Not that many were successful, and 73% of those permits went to people that actually live in Montana. From your perspective, why do you think the rest of the country should be so concerned about this issue when Montanans are primarily the folks that visit and live and use this resource?
Well, I think the Smith River is bigger than just one person or one corporation. And so the analogy I'd like to make is a couple of years ago, I was in Europe, and I was trying to figure out how much a euro was compared to a dollar, so we were spending money left and right. But I ended up in the Notre Dame Cathedral, and inside of there, I thought to myself, I don't care how much money this costs, it's worth being here right now at this moment. And Montana doesn't have the Notre Dame Cathedral, but our rivers and our streams and our mountains are cathedrals. And so as a Montanan, we have stewardship over that land and that particularly unique resource, not only for Montanans and people in the United States, but also citizens of the world. And that comes with a responsibility and an obligation. And for my generation, my feeling is that I want to make sure that passes on to the next generation. You can always have a mine somewhere. You can always dig a gigantic hole in some piece of the earth. You can't create what the Smith River has. And the Smith is singularly unique, not only to Montana, but the rest of the United States. And so that's something too valuable to jeopardize.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. An uncommon river with a very common name.
Absolutely.
Have you seen interest in trips kind of take off since this issue has come to light, or is it an issue yet that still needs to be in front of more people?
I think it needs to be in front of more people.
Mm-hmm.
So our feeling is that we aren't necessarily against mining, but perhaps we are against mining that can jeopardize a whole watershed.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be a common agreement.
Yep. Yep. We agree with this.
Yeah. All right. So tell us a little bit about. Let's talk about the trips down the Smith River. They originate at Camp Baker and they terminate at, and I forget the name of the takeout. I did the trip a couple of years ago, but that as soon as you bring up anchor and leave Camp Baker, you're entering a pretty special place. Tell us about it.
Well, what makes it so unique is just the canyon itself that is isolated and secluded from the rest of the state. So once you literally head downstream, you are gone for us, it's 5 days and 4 nights, and you float for 60 miles. And it allows you on one piece of the planet to get disconnected, so you can't get cell phones or the internet.
How do you check Facebook then? I don't get it.
Well, we had a young 15-year-old last year that on the first night we're camping out, he brings his iPad and he asks us what the password is. and when we told him that there's no password, he was incredulous. He couldn't believe he could live in a place that he couldn't get connected to the internet. And so that's one of the treasures of the Smith is that you're finally unplugged.
Yeah.
We see if we can get a telecommunications company to get in there and put some towers up for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd be happy to.
No mine, but telecom towers.
We can, as long as we can get YouTube and Facebook out there. I mean, I think your business is going to boom.
So how's your season been so far? From reports I've seen, it looks like the fishing has been decent, and the trips have been really, really successful.
Absolutely. You know, there isn't a problem in our state that water won't cure, and so as long as we have running water, then we're in great shape. But then to make a segue back to the mine, you know, the Sheep Creek, which is the tributary of the Smith where they're going to put the mine, accounts for something like 40% of all the spawning rainbows that go up there. And more importantly than that, it produces cold, clear water that goes into the Smith River. And the idea of jeopardizing that or diminishing the flow levels, you know, that plays hell with the rest of the river.
Mm-hmm. When I was on the Smith River last May, we didn't have any cold, clear water. We had high, dirty, muddy water.
It was cold, though, right?
It was cold, though, yeah, and 6 inches of snow.
No, but you didn't go on a fishing trip. You went on an eco challenge. There's a difference.
It was more like a whiskey liver challenge at that point.
Did you win?
I beat my liver, yes, absolutely.
All right.
Mike, you said you were speaking on behalf of all the outfitters. What do you want our listeners to hear, and can you give us an idea of how to best support what's something that's important to you?
Well, I think you stay engaged. I mean, I understand that the mining company would like to make a profit and sees a part of that area of Montana as an opportunity for them. But it's also an equal opportunity for everybody that wants to enjoy the outdoors and has an equal right to that. So I'd stay engaged with either Trout Unlimited or the Montana Environmental Information Center, and to write the governor of Montana. So eventually, in my mind, this falls on the shoulders of the Department of Environmental Quality and the governor's office, because when we're seeing the mining company wants to come in and do this, well, then it falls to those two entities in our state to make sure that they rigorously uphold that they speak for the river.
Mm-hmm.
I know who speaks for the mine. I would like my government to speak for the river and its users.
Well put.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do our listeners learn more about your operation? Where can they find you on your website, and go from there?
Is it even possible to get in with a trip with you, or are you booked for the next 10 years?
There's always an opportunity. But they can see us at www.lewisandclarkexpeditions.net. And they can always call at 406-459-2030.
Awesome.
.net.
I'm one of 8, and there are also 7 other great outfitters.
Nice. Do you have any openings on June 25th?
I wish we did. But we
Are you
don't.
going there in a couple days?
I was planning on it, but I didn't get a permit.
Oh.
Yeah. So, alternatives.
Do you find that the wearing of leather buckskins daily on the river causes any kind of chaffing?
I think it's pronounced chafing.
Chafing?
Chafing?
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age of...
I've never had that personal experience. I haven't used that.
I don't know why Kirk wants to know that.
How about yourself? Do you run around the house in buckskins?
Well, I am a Lewis and Clark armchair historian. I fancy myself a bit of an authority on the subject, and so I've been known to do that, yes. I was just back. We fished the Missouri 2 weeks ago, and I am fascinated by that part of the state, in particularly because of the Lewis and Clark journey of discovery and Corps of Discovery. So I kid you, but it really is, for somebody who is a fan of that historical epic journey. It's kind of like going home.
And you're wearing a Montana shirt today.
You know what's incredible, though, is that if you ever drag a boat 100 yards upstream, that gives you a kind of a very small idea of how tough those guys had to be to go upstream 2,500 miles. That's mind-boggling.
18 miles around the Great Falls. I don't know how they got around Holter Dam, but God bless them for having done that.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, that was a joke.
That was a good joke, yeah. Mike, thank you very much for representing the outfitters and the folks that have operations here in the Smith. I really do appreciate you coming on the show today, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Absolutely.
You guys have a nice day.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All kinds of crazy crap going on.
Yeah.
How is the fishing on that river, by the way? I mean, I just know it as like a multi-day float that you got to draw a permit for, but I haven't looked too much into the fishing.
When we went, like I said, the water was a little high and dirty, and streamer fishing for browns we caught 2 fish in 4 days.
Epic.
But that being said, when the water is low and clear, I understand that the fishing is out of the world.
Plus, it's the experience.
Plus the experience.
It's just good to be out.
Yeah.
Well, like Mike said, it for Montanans, it's a bucket list river, which they got a lot of, world-renowned rivers in that state, and so that's a mighty high accolade.
Yeah, and I guess by bringing attention to this issue, you would see that there would be a residual, probably pique in interest of going to this place. So, on one hand, I don't live in Montana right now, and I don't consider it, my place yet. But 76% of the people that got a permit for that river are from Montana.
Is that by design, or is that just how it works?
I don't know.
Huh.
I know that 6,000 people applied, and I don't know. I'm not that good at math, but the majority, I don't
think there's quite 6,000 people in the entire state of Montana.
No, but 6,000 people applied, and I'm not good at math, but that's more than half.
Yeah, at least.
It seems a little skewed towards the folks of Montana to get a permit there, but
that's fine.
You've got outfitters that run those trips, and perhaps it is permitted, so it can't be overrun. Mm-hmm. It is limited.
I think that Montanans should be given favoritism for a river like that that flows through their home state.
Why don't we have a single river in this state that you got to draw a permit for?
Maybe we should.
Yeah. Well, I've been proposing such ideas every year with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, but it never goes anywhere.
On the lower Snoqualmie here?
Yeah, got to limit that pressure on this.
Yeah. You could do a cast and blast on the lower Snoqualmie.
Actually, you could.
Yeah.
Shoot cows.
There's a couple duck hunting clubs down there in the lower river.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should do an open fly multi-day float through the lower Snoqualmie. Just take all our camping gear.
Stop in Duval for the barbecue, and then
we'll stop in Duval, walk up to my house, stay for the night, and finish the trip the next day. It'd be a hell of a trip.
Well, we can't put any higher than Neil Road, so it's closed this summer. So we'd have to put in it probably Carnation, huh?
I don't think you want to go that far up because there's actually some sections of gradient up there, and we want some flat, lazy water.
Oh, do you get a couple? Does it ripple up a little bit?
Yeah,
there are a couple
wave
spots.
Trains, all of like 3 inches high.
Oh,
there's a doozy of a wave train on the upper Snoqualmie, below the fall. Yeah, there's one that's just really
like a 200-foot drop.
200 millimeters, maybe.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
okay,
that one.
You're talking about from the Fall City or from the North Bend to Fall City float. Which
there's a 100 footer that's probably a class 5.
200 plus.
Yeah, that's probably
it's taller than Niagara by like double.
Yeah. You do that in a stream tech, though.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
It wouldn't even submerge.
Fully loaded. Yeah.
If anybody has no idea what we're talking about, Google Snoqualmie Falls, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Or you can call me, and I'll take you on a guided trip down it.
From North Bend to Fall City?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Well, that's what it's all about.
We could do a multi-day float down the entirety of the Columbia. Be a few portages in there.
Yeah.
Like how many? 13 of them. Run some concrete barriers.
Lewis and Clark did it.
Yeah, I heard the Columbia back before the dams was a crazy float, like almost innavigable.
The Dalles.
Yeah, we had Celilo Falls. Celilo.
The Clearwater was a big gamble too. Mm-hmm.
Well,
yes.
If we could only go back 100 plus years and see things.
I don't know if I'd want to wear buckskin on the river. I mean, it doesn't seem...
They did.
Why didn't they just wear polyester moisture wicking layers?
Ex officio didn't sponsor the.
That was a lack of sponsorship that doomed.
Patagonia did not outfit them for the expedition.
That whole expedition cost the American taxpayers about $44,000.
Wow,
that's an outrage. We're still paying for that.
Yeah,
U.S. dollars, not Canadian.
No. Anyway. Sorry. All right.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit. Get out of Montana and
play a commercial for our listeners.
Play a commercial. Let's head to the Himalayas.
Ooh.
Okay.
This should.
We're gonna summit Mount Everest.
We might.
Or are we gonna just stay at the base?
Start at the base and go to the top.
Yeah.
Are we taking this show on the road to Tibet?
Oh, that'd be great.
I think that's the other side.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah, I guess stay tuned to find the answers to these riveting questions.
Yes.
All right. We will be back shortly.
Right.
Hey, Kirk, where are we going to go?
I thought Tibet.
Oh. Okay.
Now back to the open fly.
All right, well, let's get the guide stories segment. Oh, I'm sorry, Evan. Did you want to say something?
You've been kind of leading the show today.
Well, I did set it all up.
Mutiny.
I guess he did set it all up. So this is kind of the Derek episode.
Yeah.
All right, Derek. I apologize.
No, go ahead. Say your part.
Hi.
Well, don't get all pouty on us. Man up, Evan.
Yeah.
Take your show back.
I don't have the ambition.
It's a little lazy. Well, all right. Well, then let's just go with guide stories, and this is
let's
do guide stories today.
That was my idea anyway.
All right.
No, it wasn't.
Well, we're speaking with Bryant Dunn. Hello, Bryant.
Hello there, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, sorry you had to listen to our little family spat there.
It happens. It happens with all of us.
Yeah.
So you, as we understand, you are on the banks of a river awaiting a green drake hatch. So if you step away from us, that would be expected and probably okay. But so we'll move through the important stuff right away, just in case those heads start to poke up. So.
Okay, that's good advice. Yeah, if you guys hear dead air on my end, it's definitely mayfly induced. I promise you.
Nice. Green drakes by chance?
Yes, we just said that.
Ephemerella grandis, the very western green drake. It should be emerging here in about 45 minutes. So it's a beautiful thing.
Do you also get a big yellow mayfly hatch along with that green drake at the same time?
Well, we will on local rivers, not here necessarily on the Big Wood. We'll see some PMDs and some Deceptivas here in the next few weeks. But right now, really, the green drake is the star of the show.
Is that what you're calling them? As a Deceptiva?
Deceptiva, Ephemerella Deceptiva. It's a yellowish mayfly that hatches on some of our local freestone rivers.
Ooh. Imagine if I was seeing some of those the other day too. A little bit of a masking hatch.
Might have been deceptive.
It was kind of deceptive, yeah. So you're on the banks of the Big Wood here in Idaho, but there's a place that we want to talk about that's a little bit different than that. So tell us a little bit about fly fishing in the Himalayas.
Yeah, it's an amazing adventure. You know, the world of fly fishing, especially international adventure fly fishing, has grown over the last several years, and everybody's been exploring every little nook and cranny of the world, myself included. And where I have found myself spending most of my time over the last decade is in the Himalayan range. And, you know, that's not necessarily an area known by many for fly fishing, but there's fishing opportunities over there that are absolutely...
That was the truth until this show airs, and then
it's going to blow up.
It's going to blow up. So just
it's going to explode.
Your email inbox and your voicemail is just going to be overloaded.
Well, that's exciting news.
It is. Carry on. Just continue. I just figured I'd let you know beforehand.
No, it's great. You know, what you find over in Asia, well, first of all, it is an amazing mix when you're traveling over there of just majestic natural beauty. Obviously, the highest mountain range in the world, and spectacular to look at. And, of course, the cultural aspect of any trip to the Himalayas is unlike any other.
So you're in India mostly, right?
Well, it's a combination. India, certainly, and even more so Bhutan. And then we run trips, some of our very favorite trips, we run to Thailand and Southeast Asia.
Oh, I didn't even know the Himalayas went that far down.
No, and actually the limestone peaks you will find in Thailand are really sort of the end of the tail of the Himalayan range. Some of the locals will tell you.
I gotcha.
It's the very tip of the Himalayas. So I'll go with that.
Mm-hmm. What are you catching in Thailand?
Thailand, like that entire region, primarily you're fishing for mahseer. Now, mahseer, and that's spelled M-A-H-S-E-E-R. Sometimes people mispronounce it and say mahseer, but it's really mahseer. Those are cyprinids, so they're members of the carp family, but these aren't the grass carp you might be seeing in some of your sloughs in North America, although those are awfully fun species to fish.
It's Derek's favorite.
These are very colorful fish, and they put a trout to shame as far as the fight is concerned, and of course they grow a lot bigger than any trout. So we're doing a combination of one- and two-handed fishing with floating and sinking lines, combination of wet and dry flies for fish that depending on the region can grow over 100 pounds in the rivers.
Damn!
Wow.
How did you discover this?
Well, in 2007, I got a job offer from a Bhutanese American company that was developing a recreation lodge in Bhutan to come and assess the fishability of the kingdom, because there really was no knowledge base of fly fishing or fishing in general in Bhutan, not recently. The British had done some back in the 1800s, the mid to late 1800s primarily, but in the last 150 years, there had been essentially no fishing. So they were trying to educate themselves as to what resources might be available to their guests. And I had the great pleasure and honor of traveling through the kingdom for a month, fishing wherever I wanted to wander down to and discover the great opportunities that exist in the Himalayas.
So, is there anything else besides the mahseer that you target or bycatch by chance?
Yeah, there definitely are. Wherever the British went, the story of colonialism essentially is, they imparted their culture and everything they brought with them as they traveled through India and the Himalayas, the globe, including bringing brown trout with them. And so there are brown trout in some of the colder river systems over there, of which there are plenty. And in addition to the brown trout, which are essentially the same taxonomy as we have here, there are also snow trout. And the snow trout, that name is a little bit of a misnomer. They are also a cyprinid. However, their body shape is very much like a trout, and they do have small barbels. But these fish will grow from, say, 16 inches to 30 inches. And if you hook one of any size, you're into the backing right away. They're spectacular fighters, and we've coined the name Bhutanese bonefish for these fish because they really do resemble the fight of a bonefish.
I'm looking at some pictures here. They kind of look like a mix of like a inland brown trout and a whitefish.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. That mouth starts to work towards the bottom, but not quite of the front of the nose. It's a bit wider, but yeah, these fish are eaten certainly by Himalayan residents, and I have been served snow trout, which is also called asla or unya, depending on which country you're in. But I'd rather catch them than eat them, I think.
Not particularly tasty.
Well, you stay out there long enough, anything tastes good. Boot leather, whatever you got, snow trout, you can eat it all.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's what you'll find. Now, as far as the mahseer are concerned, the mahseer range through the Himalayan range, and you'll find them from Iran, Pakistan, India, Bhutan, Burma, even Bangladesh. And that is essentially the range. And then they go down into Southeast Asia, Thailand, they're in Malaysia. You can find them spread out in Asia. But there are many different types of mahseer. The golden mahseer, the Tora Puta Tora, which is the famed majestic goddess of the Himalayas, as one of my partners calls them over there. These are the mahseer that will grow up and over 100 pounds. They're known to be the hardest fighting freshwater fish in the world, which is quite a statement, but having hooked into some large ones, I can tell you, the odds of getting one back to the bank are pretty low. They're amazing fish. And, in fact, the current IGFA world record for fly-caught mahseer is only 27 pounds.
That's all they've been able to land?
Exactly. I'm aware of 2 fish larger than that have been landed. I was fortunate to tie into one which I landed in 2010, and it did weigh 27 pounds. It's a 39-inch fish. I broke my reel, broke my 10-weight reel, completely destroyed it. It was a spectacular event. But as I said, you've got a bunch of different species. So those are the goldens, very colorful names. You also have chocolate mahseer in the Himalayas.
That sounds delicious.
They are.
It does. It sounds like a dessert.
It does, doesn't it? It definitely makes you want to cast flies at them. Mm-hmm. If you head down to Southeast Asia, you'll encounter blue mahseer. There are red mahseer in Malaysia, and the Thai mahseer, Tor tambroides, you'll also find down in Southeast Asia. So lots of subspecies of mahseer. Every single one of them outplays the best trout fight that you'll ever have, and it's really great fun to pursue those.
So, like, how big of rods are you targeting them on? If you're unable to land anything over like the 25-pound mark, are you just not on big enough gear, or what gear are you using?
Well, you have to understand that some of these river systems in Asia are very large, and when you go from the flats into large rapids, it's just not possible to pursue these fish. But generally speaking, when we're fishing the larger rivers over there, and think the Thompson or the Fraser, big water, we're using two-handed rods primarily. 10 weights would be really common, and sinking line in that case, getting it down deep. When you do find rising mahseer, and you will, and they're omnivores, by the way. They don't just eat bait fish or flies. They'll actually eat everything. In fact, they even eat fruit as it falls off the trees. I've fished to pods of rising goldens with leaves. They'll eat the leaves looking for the seed pods out of the leaves that come off. So they're omnivores. But generally, and in that case, a one-handed 8, 9, 10 weight would be a good call. When we're fishing for the blues and the Thais down in Thailand, those are smaller rivers. We're talking about 2 to 300 CFS walking weight fishing, and we're using 6 weights. In that case, your average blue mahseer would be anywhere from 10 to 30 inches, up to 10 pounds in the 30-inch case. But we've cast to fish up close to 40 pounds.
Yeah, after the show, you should talk to Kirk. He's developed a 7-foot 12 weight for situations like that.
Well, I think that's called a broomstick, isn't it?
It's actually tenkara.
I like it.
Okay, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's your gear. When you're in Southeast Asia, you're looking at heavy trout fishing gear. When you're in the larger water in the Indian and Bhutanese Himalayas, you're looking at standard steelhead and Chinook gear, 1- and 2-handed rods. That makes it a fun challenge.
Let's talk about what you haven't mentioned yet. Let's talk about Bigfoot or Yeti.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, I'm a firm believer. I'm born and raised in Seattle.
We've been there.
I definitely come from the Pacific Northwest, and Bigfoot lives. There's no question.
I believe.
It's got to be cruising around over there. I've heard lots of stories, and you probably all have. But Bigfoot's not the only potentially mythic creature over there. There's also reports of something called the blue bear. So they talk about a large bear that's blue colored that roams those mountains. There are no photographs of it, but it seems to me with some of the glacier bears that exist up in Alaska that have a blue tint to their fur, that one's probably true. But I'll go with Yeti, definitely, no question.
Well, you're certainly adding to the credibility of yourself as a professional.
Yeah, I'd like to see something tied with Yeti for that's a magic ticket to the 100-pound mahseer.
Oh, there you go. There's a challenge right there. I smell a challenge.
Very nice.
I wonder what that would cost.
So what's your guide season over in Asia?
In Asia, yeah. Well, everything's defined by the monsoon over there. We have our seasonal weather here in the States, but over there they do, and the monsoon is pretty defining. That generally, depending on where you are in the Himalaya, in Bhutan and India, you'd be looking at, say, June 1st through September. sometime where it's going to rain every day, and it's going to rain hard for large periods of that day. So that blows out the rivers, and it'll take a day and a half or two for those rivers to clear up at the very least. With consistent rain, it takes a lot longer than that. So June through at least the first half of September, not worth going. So for fishing. So we do most of our work in the second half of October and November, and then again second half of April and May. Those tend to be the good shoulder seasons where you can count on consistent water, low water, and therefore the best fishing and great sight fishing opportunities also.
Well, that's kind of nice because that leaves June through September to be stateside when our weather is the best.
Exactly. It's perfect. It really complements our seasons here really well.
How do you get to the area? I mean, logistically, how do you get to, and where in the Himalayas are you at without hotspotting the local rivers for the Seer?
Well, if you're going over there, your port of entry into Asia is going to be one of two places. It's either going to be Bangkok or it's going to be New Delhi, and those are just the best options and have the most flights going out. If you are going to be fishing India, that's where you'll be. You'll land in New Delhi. You'll overnight. Our trips take us then to the train station, and we take about a 6-hour train ride north into the state of Uttarakhand, which is northern India. And that area, we actually fish rivers that border Nepal and China. So we're way up in the corner, very remote, very low population, beautiful country. If you are flying into Bhutan and the airport is located in Paro, then you're catching one of the once-a-day flights either out of Bangkok or New Delhi. And so that's where you're going to hook up there. And, of course, Bangkok for the Thailand fishing, and you fly to some inland ports there and start your trips from there.
Are you using porters and pack animals to get gear from place to place, or...?
Yes, and it depends. We have such a wide array of packages. But, for instance, the last expedition I led over there last fall, we had 17 mules, and in addition to about 10 porters. We were following a route that had not been navigated since 1913 by Jim Corbett, and so that was a fun adventure, checking out the Ladia River on our way to the Mahakali River, which is the border between Nepal and India. But yeah, so we'll load up. And then in other circumstances, in Thailand, we're actually traveling over inland open water with longboats. These are about 30-foot long by only about 5-foot wide boats that take you over across these wonderful bays, beautiful limestone cliffs and jungle. It's like fly fishing in Jurassic Park. That's spectacular. Mm-hmm. And in Bhutan, it's although the river or the road system is very limited, we use vehicles to get around, and then we may do short hikes into river systems that way. So it's a variety of options and resources.
Nice.
How much time should somebody set aside for a fishing trip over there?
Well, jet lag's a big deal, or can be. So it's not the kind of thing where I think if someone wants to schedule a week, it's going to take you a full 24 hours to travel each direction if you're coming from the States at least. And I find that I've usually got a pretty good handle on the jet lag issue after about 3 days. Coming back tends to be a little bit longer for some reason, traveling west to east, which is the route I take.
That's been my experience as well.
Yeah, it's just a little harder to deal with. But I recommend to people 10 days would be the ultimate minimum. 2 weeks is much better. And if you can make it longer, go for it. Because very literally, you're 12 time zones away. When I leave my family, I tell my daughters, if you want to know where I am, just look down right between your feet, because I'm on the exact opposite side of the globe. And that's literal. That's the case. So you leave at 7 in the evening, and when you arrive there, your next 7 in the evening is really your 7 in the morning. So you got to power through it. And fly fishing is actually a pretty good way to beat jet lag.
Yeah, no doubt.
Or anything else, actually.
That's true.
So surely in that part of the world, you've seen some things and some stuff. Any particular stories about any crazy happenings in that part of the world on your trips?
Yeah, it can be a little unsettling when you open up your tent door and you've got big cats over there. You've got tigers, you've got leopards, and one time I opened up the door of my tent and watched a leopard stroll by at about 10 feet, which
Sweet.
It can work against you, potentially, that scenario. But it's really fun because it's an expedition. It's a true adventure. You are in the wilderness, and there are monkeys running around and jumping through the trees above your tents, and it's incredible. You're on white sand beach. I can think of times where I was standing on the banks of a river, and where my partner or local Bhutanese would tell me that you're about to cast a fly into a river that's never been fished before, and to have that experience even once in your life is magnificent. I can remember a situation like that where I was casting to this beautiful trout water. There were snow trout and brown trout in front of me. I was so just focused on what I was doing, I didn't realize till I stopped to change flies and looked over my shoulder that an entire village was standing behind me watching me fish, because they'd never seen anything like it before. They had no idea. Of course, they knew what I was trying to accomplish. I was trying to catch fish, but they'd never seen fly fishing. And I think that's a memory I'll probably keep with me for a long while.
Did they have poison-tipped darts trained on you?
I'm sure that's happened more than I know. They're pretty sneaky over there. They can hide in the bushes pretty well.
Next time you go back, they'll have inner tubes and coolers of beer.
I hope so.
They'll float down through your water.
Probably Yeti coolers.
Yeah.
Oh, Yeti coolers. Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah. Good. There's a sponsorship opportunity there. There's got to be.
We've blown that one already somewhere.
No, I think you guys have done nothing but speak highly of them.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Awesome. That sounds like quite an intriguing trip. How far out does someone need to book a trip with you? Is that something that's years away, or is it this year?
What are you doing next week?
Yeah, I'm in. Let's go. I'll call my wife from the airport. It'll work out really, really well.
Yeah, I was going for the same tactic.
Thanks for forgiveness. It's good to get ahead of it. Basically, I like to have all reservations locked up 6 months in advance at a minimum, because you're dealing with limited space on airplanes getting to where you want to go. You've got small airplanes, and even though there's a very limited amount of tourism, if you've got 40 seats for the whole world to fill on a given day, you better get ahead of it. So, But yeah, I've got bookings as far as a year and a half out right now.
Mm-hmm. What the show we started earlier today? We were talking about the Smith River in Montana and the environmental concerns about mining and at headwaters. What sort of environmental issues are you seeing over there that the rest of us don't know about? Are there any?
Boy, that is such a poignant question, especially right now, and I appreciate that. Also,
you're welcome.
Smith goes, but yeah, very nicely done. Nicely done. What about the Smith River? What a killer river that is! Beautiful part of Montana. Well, the issues over in the Himalayas are very, very similar to those that we have here in North America. However, I think that the Himalayan residents, the common man over there, is less able to deal with the ramifications of some of these decisions. For instance, damming is something that is increasing in occurrence in the Himalayas, and I'm actually headed over there in the spring for a month to film a documentary on the issues of damming the Himalayan rivers and the costs or the conflict between the concept of human consumption and pristine ecosystems. You've got a situation where basically on one side of the Himalayas, China runs the show, and on the other side of the Himalayas, India runs the show, and in between, you have a small kingdom like Bhutan, for instance, who's dependent on India for most of their revenue through hydroelectric power. Because Bhutan, if you think of it, it's only about 200 miles from west to east, and from north to south, only about 100 miles. But over the course of those 100 miles, you go from the highest point of the Himalayas in Bhutan, which is about 25,000 vertical feet, down to about 750 feet. So you've got about a 24,000-foot drop in 100 miles. That's spectacular. And so what it creates in a country full of rivers is a great opportunity to build dams. And we're seeing river by river being dammed up and it's a trade that I'm not sure the Bhutanese are going to be glad they made in the future. Anyway, we're going to head over there and have a good hard look at it and try to bring some public awareness to the issue. It's not our intention to judge, because those people have their needs and they're surviving the best way that they can. But, in general, the population is not very well educated about the concept of damming rivers like we are more educated here in the States. So it's a very serious topic. As we all know, it's not a big deal to put up a dam. Politically speaking, it's a lot harder to take one down, especially when these are major projects we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
That'll be a fun project. We're really excited, working with a great team, and the gist of it all. And I can't go into particulars about exact locations and that, but we are taking a team of 4 anglers, all very well-known anglers from around the world, from India, Europe, the United States, and we're going to be doing a month-long expedition through the kingdom, and eventually spending the last 10 days floating down a river that has never been fished, looking for mahseer, which we know are present in the river in large numbers, as we take a good hard look at what a pristine Himalayan unfished river system looks like. And we're going to look at some other river systems that have been dammed, and we're going to juxtapose them and put the question out there for people. Is this what we want to be doing? Is this what they want to be doing? And we'll let the viewers decide for themselves, but I think it'll be a pretty neat project when it's all said and done.
It sounds like another opportunity to take some more StreamTech boats over there. There was a project last year, the Aqua Vitae project, that took some StreamTech rafts and floated down, did first floats on rivers over there that had never been done before. So,
yeah.
You're going to get in on that, Derek?
I might have to get in on that.
Yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, there's still a few little areas out there in the world that haven't had the eye of fly fishermen on them yet, and it's been fun finding some of those and fishing some of those over there, and extremely fun when you not only have the pleasure of fishing for recreation and the thrill that we all find in casting flies, but when there's more to it than that, and when there's added value of perhaps bringing to light issues that matter to people and ecosystems over time. So that'll be fun.
Right on.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. I think it's about time for his green drake hatch.
Yeah. So tell us.
Go ahead.
Tell us how to get a hold of you, your website, phone numbers, emails, and go from there.
Okay, cool. Well, I think the easiest way to contact me and plan your own expedition is to go to my website, which is flyfishhimalayas.com, flyfishhimalayas, plural.com. And that gives rundowns of all of our services in Thailand and Bhutan and India. Gives a history, a lot of references and referrals, and a lot of photographs, videos. Just basically, I think once someone goes to flyfishhimalayas.com, they'd have a really good idea of what they're in for. And my email, which is flyfishhimalayas@yahoo.com, is there as well as phone numbers and all the other info a person would need. One thing I find is, there's a couple different groups that seem to be attracted to these trips. Groups of buddies, guys who want to go on a group trip to a remote, an exotic location, and of course that is a lot of fun. And also husband and wife groups that want to go, and maybe the husbands want to fish and the wives want to explore the local culture. A lot of these places have amazing temples and hikes, and of course we provide guides for the wives as well off the rivers to give local insight. We also have a lot of spas and opportunities for massage, etc. over there, so it's a pretty good old time, and all our trips are customized to whatever the guests would like to do.
Very cool.
I agree. Yeah. I'll do it someday.
Awesome.
Okay,
when I'm making big money.
The massage or the flight?
Yes. No, I just had to cancel my trip 2 hours north to Canada tomorrow because I couldn't afford the gas money, so I don't know if I'm going to make it to India the next year.
Well, I'll tell you, it's awful nice. I put absolutely every expense in my life on my credit card that builds up miles, and I'll tell you, after a while, you get enough for a free plane ticket to Bangkok and back. It does make it a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Of course, you got to buy stuff to make that happen, which I can't really generally afford to do. But
me neither.
That's how the process goes.
All right.
Well, Brian, thanks for sharing your stories with us today, and go out and check out his website and support somebody who's doing it for the fun of it. Also, it takes a little conservation side too as well. So thanks for coming on today.
I really appreciate you guys having me, and have a great summer. I hope your fishing goes well, and I'm going to sit here until I see the first green drake pop, and I'm hitting the river.
Right on.
There you go.
Perfect.
Thank you, sir.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Golden Mask.
From the Big Wood to Bangkok.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a big fan of curry and pad thai and all that kind of food, so
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that they cook you a fresh pad thai and stuff on the riverside.
3-star.
Do they have peanut butter in Thailand?
I think they just crush peanuts.
Oh.
The rest of the world thinks peanut butter is disgusting.
I don't think peanut butter is disgusting.
No, it's because we're Americans.
I think it's a perfect food.
You ask any European, and they're like, they would list peanut butter at the top of things that we eat that are disgusting.
Ahead of Vegemite?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's that other crap?
Same. There's the stuff made out of brewer's yeast.
Yeah.
Well, in Australia, it's Vegemite. I can't remember the name of it in England, but it's the same thing.
I think we need to start becoming just a little more tolerant of other people's cultures.
And you're going to start this trend, Kirk?
Except for the Dutch.
Yeah.
I hate the Dutch.
And the Canadians.
No, I like the Canadians.
Oh, do you?
Oh, interesting about the Canadians. We drove up to Whistler in BC 2 months ago, and through one of the, I guess it's not an interstate, but it was a freeway system.
They don't have states, so
that's
what do Canadians call highways?
An inter-province.
Yes. Carry on.
Anyway, we noted a roadside sign indicating that we were going to be crossing a toll bridge. I never saw cameras. There wasn't a toll booth, so we just proceeded. We went up, we skied, we came back, crossed the bridge again, discussed what the likelihood was of us ever having to pay that toll, how would they find us, blah, 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 political immunity. We just got a letter from the tolling company up in Canada. They got us.
Oh.
$10. So I sent them a check, but I specified that it was $10 Canadian and not U.S.
A CHEQUE?
Yeah.
Next time, send them a bunch of pennies.
Yeah, there you
That'll
go.
show them.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'll learn them to.
I wasn't going to
collect
pay
them,
it,
yeah.
but then I thought, the next time I go to Canada, I'd forget that I hadn't paid that.
That sounds like entrapment if there weren't any cameras. I mean, how did they know? Oh, no, that's weird.
No Mounties or anything galloping along the road.
I grow uncomfortable
ticketing.
with the Canadians every day, more and more. That just seems a little bit like an invasion of privacy. What do they have to hide, or what are they so worried about?
I don't know.
I think they just wanted our toll money.
Yeah.
So I paid it.
Okay.
I paid
You're a model citizen.
Yeah, way to go.
I'm a
welcome.
model Canadian citizen.
Yes. You will be allowed back in the country next time due to your actions. Yeah, I was going to go there tomorrow and go fish with our buddy Dave Henry, but not going to happen.
You don't
I'm
have
sad.
the $50 needed to...
No, I spent too much on my shadding trip and then some other things. Got some electrical issues at the house, and yeah, got to be a responsible adult.
Yeah.
Hey,
After you pull the plug on the show, let's go poke around with some sharp metal objects and see if we can figure out your electrical issues.
Oh, there we go.
This may be the last
Hold
podcast
this.
we do from the studio.
Yeah, pour some beers out of the taps and
Let's drink this bottle of rye whiskey and then go do some.
go troubleshoot some electrical in my bathroom. What could possibly go
I
wrong?
don't see any problems.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's nice to be back.
It is, but we're about to leave again.
Oh,
We're on another hiatus.
Where are we going?
Yes.
Back to where we just were.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a good
wherever we've
place.
been for the last 4 weeks.
That's a good place.
I think we're going to try and do 2 shows in July. Although we've got one half scheduled, the other one is still open. So when do you guys get on scheduling the second one? Ready to go?
I just did this one, no tea.
Yeah. I think we're going to try and talk about the famous Salmon River in New York on the next show.
Oh.
I thought the Salmon River was in Idaho.
It's correct, but it runs all the way to New York.
Oh, through
then-
the Continental Divide.
Yeah.
Why didn't Lewis and Clark take that one west?
That was a major error.
They could have taken it all the way from New York.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. You zoom in on Google Maps. I mean, you can find it.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean,
They
it
had
goes-
some bad intel back then.
Yeah, those Sacagawea turn them.
Sacagawea.
You got corrected about Sacagawea.
Hey, that's not how they pronounce it when I was in school. Yeah, but so quite possibly the most popular fly fishing / just in general fishing stream in the entire country.
I heard it was like combat fishing there all the time.
The most popular and talked about and fished stream in the country. Hear it from a guide there who does it for a living and does float trips and swings flies and does things you would think of on a pristine West Coast river, but in probably the most combat fishing river in the country.
That'd be a good interview.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Sounds a little confused, actually.
Yeah.
Have you confirmed him, or are you just?
No, he's confirmed. He's on.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, he's on board.
Excellent.
Halfway done is better than not at all.
Yeah. Well, he's confirmed. I've been trying to get. There's an angler-run conservation group there who does river cleanups, things like that, and we were going to talk about just kind of the things they have to deal with the crowds, leaving behind all the stuff they do and what they do to keep that river fishable. And I haven't heard back from them yet, but I'm going to stay persistent.
So it's an East Coast show.
Well, so for the other show that we need to fill, let's get a guide from the western version of the Salmon River on.
Which is
the Salmon River.
Oh, okay.
So we can kind of compare notes to see how it fishes at opposite ends of the continent.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I did see some.
They're going to be really busy right now. I mean, I had the Helfriches come to mind, but I know that Kelsey is going to be really, really busy.
Yeah. There's I'll contact these guys. I saw some videos of some fly guides on the Idaho part of the Salmon River. Fishing to spawning steelhead, so we could probably learn all about that fishery.
Hey now.
Fishing, you just actually, I take that back. It's sight fishing steelhead in tailouts on gravel.
Oh,
with egg patterns.
Treble hooks and egg patterns.
That could be an interview.
If those were carp, I'd be all over that shit.
That could definitely be an interview.
Very nice.
Yeah,
that would be combat fishing of another kind, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like going to Idaho, so let's not piss off the Idahoans.
I don't even understand why they leave it open past April. Or I talked to somebody in Utah who was not really in the know on that, and was like, "Yeah, I had a friend invite me along on a trip to the Salmon River at the end of April," and I was like, I'm gonna say that. Given that he works for Trout Unlimited and didn't really, but he had no idea of the steelhead fisheries, doesn't know the timing or anything, and he was going to go and check it out. And I was like, well, given your position and the fact that you're an ethical model citizen, it seems like I'm going to advise not going to that river in April.
Was that Chris Hunt?
No, it was not.
Oh. Wonder how he's doing these days. I mean, did he get famous from our last podcast?
Could have. I
think he got famous from his last book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I do see him in Costco's a lot. That's pretty famous.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're rambling now. Should we keep rambling, or are we going to go home?
Let's go.
No, let's go.
You guys are dismissed. Clock out.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, it's good to be back.
It is.
It's nice to be back.
And to celebrate that, we're going to leave again.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, see you later. No, I think we're actually leaving out. Okay, bye.